The Republican caucus put on the table today about $1.2 billion worth of new revenues, both tax and non-tax revenues. And actually, when we calculated, it's closer to 1.3, 1.35. But I know the governor and the Democratic caucuses have some concern about some of the revenue estimates, so we're going to go with the safe number of $1.2 billion. As soon as the administration and the other caucuses are ready to consider that proposal, we will have it drafted. In fact, we're in the process of having it drafted, and we will bring the members back to the Capitol immediately to put that proposal on the governor's desk. We understand that they have some concerns about a couple of the numbers. That's why instead of taking 1.35, we'll go with the low number, $1.2 billion. Our balance sheet shows that that actually gives us a couple $1 million surplus going into the next year. Obviously not a lot, but it absolutely balances going into next year. We have a revenue package. We've been talking about a revenue package for a couple weeks now. It's always been around $1.2 billion. We've shared that with the Senate. We've shared that with the Democratic caucus. We've shared that with the administration. We've shared the balance sheets. So we've had a revenue package all along. We have a revenue package. I have yet to see any of the other parties put a revenue package on the table. I understand some folks want to consider, taxing people's utility bills as a way to balance a budget. We've said from the beginning, we just don't have the votes in the House for that. So we did the responsible thing. We put $1.2 billion on the table, and it's been no secret what we've talked about. We've talked about tobacco taxes, we've talked about gaming, we've talked about tax amnesty, we've talked about a number of those type of items. So we're ready to get it done as soon as folks realize there aren't votes in the House to tax people's utility bills. Well, in all fairness, and we said this to the governor today, we put $1.2 billion in new revenue on the table. If the governor wants to walk away from $1.2 billion in new revenue, that's his choice. We have not sent the non-preferred appropriations to the governor yet because, obviously a revenue package is needed for those. And I guess he could either veto the entire budget and keep everybody holding out for, another year, 2 years till he gets whatever he wants again, or he could blue line about $500 million from that budget and decide what he wants to cut. We think the appropriate thing to do, as we have, is to accept the $1.2 billion revenue package we put on the table. It balances the budget. School districts are no longer concerned. Colleges and universities are no longer concerned. Human services get their payments in a timely fashion, and we're not taxing people's utility. I think folks just have to realize that, hey, this is what we've been talking about all along. We put a general appropriations bill together based upon this premise. We worked together. We passed a liquor bill a couple weeks ago. We worked together. We passed a pension bill a couple weeks ago, all leading to this point of passing a budget. And this is the revenue that goes along with it. We haven't not been secret about that revenue. We've talked about it publicly. We've talked about it in every single budget meeting. So now it's just time. Let's vote on it and let's finish everything.
Is there danger it falls apart here?
Look, I don't think it needs to fall apart.
But is there a danger?
I don't think it will fall apart. The revenue package we have put together is the version of the gaming that came out of the House. That does not include the video gaming at taverns. If you did video gaming at taverns, you're talking about $200 million extra dollars that could be put into that particular mix. And look, we also, throughout the last year, have put on the table leasing the wholesale system, the other half of liquor privatization. You combine those two things together, that's $400 million that everybody seems to be opposed to except for the House Republican caucus. The governor can agree to our revenue package, the Senate can agree to our revenue package, $1.2 billion, and we'll throw that $400 million on top of that, and they can have $1.6 billion to balance this budget and actually get to a head start on next year's bill. All they have to say is yes. We put together a package that we're confident we have the votes on in the House. And I understand the Senate may want to tweak that in one form or another. Folks have talked about the gross receipts tax, the tax on people's utilities bills. We've just said that we don't have the votes for that. So we put together $1.2 billion, which is all part of the discussions we've had for the last month. And then, like I said, there's another $400 million there to be had. All they got to do is say yes. I think, look, talks will continue. There's no doubt about that. We put a formal proposal on the table. We think they should take it, and we can, be done with the budgetary process. But like I said, if the governor or the Senate or the House Democrats think we need new revenue, we have $400 million sitting out there that we'll accept that as well because we've already passed the wholesale privatization. And, if the Democrats give us the votes on video gaming at terminals, that's another $200 million, because we put up 65 votes for that. That's more than any Republican caucus has ever put up for gaming in the history of this state. Look, I've talked to members, and they're a no. Even the folks who may consider adding other tax revenue, they're a no on a utility tax. So yeah, I did talk to members in that regard on both sides of the aisle. So it's not like the House Democratic Caucus came to us and said, look, we have 83 votes. We need 20 of your guys. They don't have 83 votes. And we don't have 20, so there's no use having that discussion. It's on natural gas, which is how most, a good portion of the state heats their homes.